Is the new Zelda game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, canon? Well, let's start by looking at the trailer itself. In it, we see a look at Hyrule 100 years in the past, leading up to and during the Great Calamity. The fact that the game, especially the cutscenes, look like they've been stripped right from Breath of the Wild, adds to this game's legitimacy, although that doesn't actually outright confirm that this game is canon. But, let me ask you before we move on, why would you make a story-based prequel game which fleshes out the narrative of a previous installment and not have it be canon? A small but important thing to note is that we see Link use the bomb rune without the Sheikah Slate, and Zelda uses all the runes, which as far as we know, so far, was not available to those characters 100 years ago. They couldn't do that. But I think that this is easily dismissed, as this is a Warriors game and powerful moves are very common in Warriors games. The gameplay itself in Age of Calamity might not be 100% accurate to the chronology, but I'm sure that the main story beats and cutscenes will be. Now, let's look at what Mr. Eiji Aonuma and Mr. Yosuke Hayashi say, specifically, and analyze whether they confirm or deny the game being canon. So after the trailer, right, Eiji Aonuma comes out and he says,
"This game takes place 100 years before the events of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In that game, the Great Calamity that occurred 100 years prior was mentioned, but the actual event itself wasn't shown in full."
Here, Mr. Aonuma clearly draws the connections between Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity. Him saying,
"In this game, you'll be able to experience the events of the Great Calamity,"
proves that they are in fact canon to the story of Breath of the Wild. Then, the Hyrule Warriors Koei Tecmo Games producer Yosuke Hayashi comes out and says,
Age of Calamity began when Mr. Aonuma approached us saying, "I think it would be interesting to create a Warriors game telling the story of the Great Calamity."
This bit shows how important the story is for Nintendo this time around. I might make another video just about this, but the fact that the original aim for this game is to literally fill in the gaps that weren't mentioned in Breath of the Wild story-wise makes it obvious that it's canon. Later on, Eiji Aonuma goes over this again, saying,
"I believe this game will offer the experience of the Great Calamity battles that weren't fully shown in the original game."
Finally, let's go back to Mr. Hayashi. Take a look.
Unlike the previous Hyrule Warriors games, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was developed by working closely with the Zelda team in every step of the process, including gameplay direction, graphics, world, and all dialogue.
At this point, they're almost banging us on the head repeatedly with saying that the game will be canon. He specifically points out that they are working closely with Nintendo, and even goes out of his way to emphasize that they discuss the details down to the dialogue with Nintendo. I'll just end this by adding that regardless of the canon status of Age of Calamity, this does not change the status of the original Hyrule Warriors. The original Hyrule Warriors is not canon and has nothing to do with Age of Calamity story-wise. Any conclusions drawn that state anything along the lines of proving that Hyrule Warriors being canon because Age of Calamity is canon as well is just ridiculous. They are completely different games. One is an official licensed fan game, the other is a prequel to the already established Breath of the Wild story. Now that we know, or at least are very confident, that Age of Calamity will be a proper prequel to Breath of the Wild, that just makes me even more excited for this game. What about you guys? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe for more content coming your way. Anyway, I've been the Aussie Viking. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.